and welcome back to another AOS Crowd video! Woo!
Woo!
Woo! I am Quinn, and I am joined by Matt Mello. Hello!
Woo! Hello, everyone.
So, today we're going to be talking about the AO Masters event that was held in Amsterdam 2 weekends ago, last weekend of February, in Amsterdam in the Netherlands, which Matt attended. So, before we get into that though, we're just going to do a little bit of a hobby recap. Matt, what have you been up to?
So, as usual, I'm painting absolutely nothing because I hate painting. But I am currently building my Belfanos, which I finally got around to. And maybe one day I'll play him, maybe.
Maybe.
What about you, Quinn? What have you been up to?
I've been mainly planning videos. I've been busy editing. If you want to check out what we've done so far, there's 2 new videos up, but the German Club Championship with Toby from AOS Toby from Team Germany. We had a great time, and there might be a surprise at the end. Who knows? And just busy doing Flesh Eater courts, and I'm slowly drowning in ghouls, and I don't know what to do.
That is the curse of the meta chaser, to slowly drowning ghouls.
Yeah, I think I have more ghouls than I have money, so
That's fair.
I'm struggling. In any way, I am pretty hyped about the battlescroll. It dropped a couple of weeks ago. We've already seen major changes and shifts in the meta. Look out for a video soon, possibly before Brothers War, most likely after Brothers War. But yeah, one of the major consequences of the battlescroll changing quite a lot, to be frank, is that Matt chose his army based on the changes, right?
Yeah, I did. I picked one of the armies that got buffed a little bit because I played Doc. For those of you who don't know, so I played Daughters of Cain. And I figured that because a lot of the armies, so Doc have always been an army that have kind of been okay. So they've always been kind of okay to good, and then everything else has been too efficient at dealing with them because they have a very specific way that you need to deal with them because of things like Marathi. There's a very specific way they play, and generally speaking, armies have been strong enough to be able to handle it pretty comfortably. And in this battlescroll update, we saw a lot of the top armies get hit. In like capacities, so like less units, less like sustainability. There's loads of little hits to a lot of the big armies, and Doc got a buff, which didn't help. Ironically, didn't help the list that I ran that much in terms of points. However, it did mean that I felt a lot more comfortable going into a lot of matchups, especially as the meta seems to be shifting more towards a sort of scrap in the middle kind of playstyle, which Marathi is quite good at doing. Especially when a lot of combat armies don't have ways to deal damage to her efficiently. So I gave her a spin, and yeah, it went decently. The spicy pick I took in my list, so it was a classic Marathi bow snakes angle, of course, because what else do you do in Doc, right?
Yes, you can see it right over there.
Yeah, but the sort of I mean, it's not really a spicy pick, but the pick I made was I took a Charybdis, which is an ally from Cities of Sigmar, and what it does is, for those of you who don't know, is it's a monster. It's a pretty cheap monster for 160 points, and it allows me to turn off Inspiring Presence and rally within 12 inches. Now, Doc have a way to do this anyway with the Crown of Woe, which is an artifact that they have. It's 9 inches, and you can increase it to 15 if you put it on the melee Scion skill, which you do once you shoot something, it goes to 15, so it's a bigger range. But I often find that she wants to be at the back anyway, because she gives you a 4 rally. But the issue I kind of had with the list is that, so the battle tactics, one of the main reasons Doc I think is so good is because the battle tactics are incredibly efficient. They're so good. You have one to drop some Kinnerai down and shoot and move. You have one to have 2 units in your opponent's territory. It's really very, and there's loads of like optional ones effectively. So odds are you're getting 5 tactics most games. The problem that the list has is that its grand strategy is a little bit weak because you usually take the Doc one, which is everything has to fight or die, which gives you good coverage because if you get tabled, you get it done. Right, easy peasy.
Yeah.
However, I didn't want to take that one because I'm trying to explore taking it as a list that can that can sort of go into and get bigger points. And the problem is in matchups where you win, that battle tactic is very hard to achieve because when you're winning, all your stuff isn't dying.
Yeah.
So then things like your general and stuff like this are not fighting. So then how do you get them into combat, right? So then
Mm-hmm.
you're trying to play around that, and I don't like that. So I actually wanted to free up my artifact choice and take Arcane Tome, which allowed me to do everyone's favorite spellcasting savant. So that's kind of how I sort of changed the list a little bit compared to what it's been before. But yeah, that's kind of the list and kind of how it works. And yeah, it's nothing incredibly inventive. I just thought that the meta allowed it to be a little bit better than it's been before.
Very interesting. I like the double Shadow Stalkers pick. Like, did you find him to be invaluable when taking objectives, or just a neat little trick?
Yeah, so one of the big things about the Shadow Stalkers, so I'm playing Calibron,
Yeah.
which means that I get the command point teleport. Shooting castle armies have been my thing since ever, and this is a great shooting castle army because everything shoots and teleports, so perfect. So I have a command point teleport, which is from a hero. It's not just from the general anymore, like it used to be in the old book, so it's a little bit better. It gives me a lot of flexibility, especially with spellcasting savant, because it gives me the ability to, oh, you've pinned me in, away I go, sort of thing. The Shadow Stalkers themselves are really good because they go a battle line in Calibron, obviously, and most people don't know, but they changed from a 5 up to a 4 up save now in the book. That happened a long time ago, but like we just haven't seen them in the meta, so people just haven't seen them. So they lost the -1 hit, but they're a 4 up save now. So and because they get rallied on 4s, they're actually okay in like as in to be like a good screen, and they can teleport out of combat. So if they're not dead, they're doing the sort of the board edges tactic, the two in your opponent's territory tactic.
Yeah.
Like they're going to get you those tactics and intimidate things like this. So they're really efficient for doing those tactics. And when you're playing a shooting castle, you're designing a shooting castle kind of army, you always want to be able to do tactics without having to invest your turn in doing tactics, basically.
Yeah.
You want to be able to do, like, that's generally true for all armies, to be honest, but for shooting castles, especially because you don't have much primary presence ever, apart from Marathi, you don't have a way to, you need a way to be able to go, okay, I'm going to put this unit over here, this unit over here. That's mentally, that's your turn battle tactics sorted, so then your whole turn then can be revolved around making sure your target priority is correct. Because that's what matters so much in a shooting army. So the Shadow Stalkers really free you up and enable you to be able to play the game wide, which is like really helpful sometimes when armies want to like sort of when you want to spread armies wide, basically.
Yeah.
But yeah, so that's kind of how that works.
It's very interesting because the way you're talking about like shooting castles and how you always, well, the Kylebron pick, especially with the teleportation option, at least, reminds me a little bit of why I like to take the Lord Relictor in my Knight Judicator list, because it always gives you the option of getting out of danger and freeing up a lot of mobility. And I think with the limited model count that these lists usually have, you're just perfectly set up to just annoy your opponent wherever he sort of leaves a gap.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think the other thing as well is that, like, I mean, it's a kind of a general take, but it's the reason teleports are so not oppressive, but the reason they're so difficult to play against is because in that list I have 3 teleports a turn in theory, right? So
Yeah.
and that means you're like, yeah, but you're not going to teleport those things, but you still have to screen for those things. Like you still have to screen. Like saying you've got the 5-1 heroes, it means that you can't just put them behind. You need to screen that behind now because I can go behind.
Yeah.
And then if you set up in a way where you're screened turn 1, but then you have no screens behind, I'm not going to move forward because that's how shooting castles work. And then you have to move forward, so then you have to protect your behind as well. And it really like against good players it has less of an effect, but even then it forces you to constantly play that way. While that threat is active, it doesn't matter whether I go for that threat or not. It forces your opponent to play around that threat, which is like a big deal in terms of like resource delegation and stuff like this.
Yeah, and as I've already sort of hinted at, the resource management with such little models is very intense for like shooting castle armies. And to be perfectly honest, I still fear this list. I have PTSD because a friend of mine plays it at I club every now and again, and I'm just afraid of Marathi. So scary. But yeah, it's a wonderful list still. Scores well, does well, and yeah. Should we just head into a quick chat about how your games went?
Yeah, always the fun part.
Hmm.
So game one, I played a lovely lad called Ralph. It was his first tournament. So he had a Karazai and Friends was basically his list style. So he was playing sort of a Hammers list with some Fulminators, Bastion, Nitroconus, Stormstrike Chariots, kind of a little bit of everything effectively.
Yeah.
And obviously the big lad Karazai. Now, Ralph was lovely. We had a really, really fantastic game. He played it really well. He just played it fantastically well. He played it really good. We had a fantastic time. It kind of just that he was playing Stormkeep instead of Scions, and that meant that the Fulminators died immediately because I shoot them off because they're my number one target priority, obviously. There was also a very weird interaction in that game where it got very confusing very quickly because he had Bastion. Now Bastion is quite good at dealing with Marathi because he has the ability to roll the dice, 6 into mortals. Like he can fish for it, but it's quite good. Now we were playing Spring the Trap, so I could put T3 units in the sky. Okay. Now it's a very weird interaction how this works.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. We got a judge over and everything because before we even did anything because I just had no idea how this worked.
I think I know where this is going.
Yeah, exactly right. So I put Big Marathi in the sky because I was like, well, I wanna not have Marathi in that game because I don't want it to take wounds. But then I left Little Marathi on the board, and there's a whole weird kind of world around how this works. But basically, Marathi kind of just all of her rules don't exist because they only exist if you're on the board together. So in that world, because normally the wounds get allocated to Little Marathi, then moved on to Big Marathi. So what happens when Big Marathi's not there is that Little Marathi just takes damage. So she can die turn one, but Big Marathi doesn't die because if Big Marathi dies, Little Marathi dies, but it doesn't work the other way around. So it's a very weird interaction of where. So then he was like, "Well, I'll do it on Little Marathi because she'll still take wounds." And then I was like, that totally makes sense from a logical perspective. And then we got it clarified that I could then heroic recovery her because there's nothing to stop her healing because the no healing is on the big one.
Yeah, I was about to say. Okay.
It was a super strange interaction. And then she actually did take some wounds. But then when Big Marathi comes down, so I think she only had 1 wound on her at this point. But even if she had like 5, because she has 6 wounds, even if she had 5 wounds allocated to her, once Big Marathi comes down, those wounds might as well not exist because they don't transfer over, and she can now never take damage because they always pass on to Big Marathi. Very strange interaction, very weird, very thing. But basically, she took a wound. This allowed me to get away from Bastion's ability a lot, basically. And he played really well. He played so that was a sort of a side note to sort of dig into this. So basically he got in, Karazai got in turn 4, I think it was, turn 3 into all the bow snakes because obviously I didn't have Big Marathi as a threat. But I killed a lot of stuff, so it was basically only Karazai left at this point. Everything else has kind of died. And then but Marathi had come down at this point. And then it was kind of just I was ahead on primary, I was ahead on points, and then Karazai can't really do anything to Marathi because she can't die at this point, so she came down to 3, so she couldn't take enough damage to die. So she was kind of just farming effectively at that point. So that was the game. It was a really, really good game. We had a really, really lovely time. Definitely hoping to see Ralph again at tournaments. He was great. So that was game 1. A good win, and then game 2, we went up a little bit and we played against Roy Belgraver, and he was playing Khorne. So this was my first Khorne matchup. I quite like playing against Khorne because I practice against Toby a lot. So Toby from Germany, he's kind of the practice partner for me, and he pretty much he doesn't exclusively play Khorne, but Khorne is definitely his best army. So I practice a lot against him. I played so I'm usually very confident going into Khorne because I play against him enough. However, that doesn't mean anything because
it's Khorne.
Have more tricks than everything, and they're probably still now a bit of a spoiler, but they're probably the best faction in the game, I'd say, especially for teams. Maybe not in singles, but in teams perspective, I think they're going to be everywhere. So yeah, so his list was a little bit different than the stuff you normally see. He didn't have a Bloodthirster of the -1 hit 3/6 charge boy.
Unfettered Fury.
Unfettered Fury, that's the words. He didn't have that. He had a Wrath of Khorne Bloodthirster instead, which is a bit of a hitty one. And then he also had Boomthirster with Argath and Scarbrand. And then the little pick he had Festus. So because Festus can heal any ally.
Okay.
So you can heal any hero D3. An interesting pick.
Also a wizard.
Yeah, also a wizard, which is interesting because, like, to be fair to him, he in the matchup we played, he did just go for magical dominance turn 1 and didn't roll a 5-up, which I have a lot of respect for.
Yeah, that's ballsy.
But fair enough. But yeah, so he also had 6 skull crushers as well, which normally can be a little bit maybe not that great, but into Marathi it's actually okay. His kind of win condition, I think, is getting, if he gets those skull crushers into Marathi, then I'm forced to sort of not do something for a turn in theory. I can teleport out and try and charge, but that's not optimal. So I gave him first. Obviously, he sort of moved the screens up, but he made a little bit of a mistake, and he put 5 dogs as a screen, and then just put Scarbrand sort of 3 inches behind. And we were playing no reward without risk, so we're pretty close anyway. And I'd set it up so that he couldn't really tag Marathi. Or he couldn't tag her with Murderlust or anything like this. And then I went my turn 1. I shot off half the dogs in the hero phase, or I did sort of 7 or 8 wounds to the dogs, and then left them, and then charged Marathi in, piled around, and killed Scarbrand turn 1, which is not bad. And I also killed the dog, so that then she was free, and then I won the double turn, and then that was kind of over.
Okay.
So yeah, that was rough. It was an unfortunate mistake, but we capitalized on it. We had a lovely game. We actually, once we'd done that, we kind of agreed what the game state was going to be. We worked out the points, and this happened very quickly, as you can imagine. In terms of like time. So we re-racked, and then we played an alternate universe where I rolled a double 1, and then we had like a super fun game, which was obviously not a tournament game, but we had a really fun time. So really really loved that. So we had a great time. But that was kind of that game kind of became that was kind of a game losing mistake effectively. Which is one of the reasons why I think the list can be really good, because you can really punish those kind of mistakes. They don't look like mistakes, but certainly you're like, oh wait, I've lost my key piece. So yeah, so that was a lovely game too. So then game 3. So this is the last game on the Saturday. I played it against a lovely man called Daryl. So Daryl Peacock is he's from the UK, but he lives here in the Netherlands with me. But he's lived here for a long time now, I think. But Daryl's really really cool. We actually played this matchup like 4 weeks ago in the Dutch training camp.
Nice.
So this was kind of a rematch. With Daryl's on the Dutch team for Worlds.
Nice. Okay.
Really really good player. Really really lovely guy. So we but the battle plan we played last time was no reward at risk, which is better for me because he can't hide. This time we were playing limited resources. Now limited resources is a cluster heck of a game constantly. Doesn't matter what you're playing. So it was interesting. It was a lot closer than last time for sure. Daryl played. Basically, Daryl worked out his win condition was to win the priority, give it to me early, which he did. So he won the priority into 2, gave it to me, and then he had to play for a double. It was basically his win condition is what we kind of worked out. So he went all in with all the sensor bearers that were alive.
Oh, so that was what I was going to ask. What did he play? Because he didn't mention.
Obviously didn't mention it at all. Sorry. He's playing Skaven. Sorry, that was a big miss from me.
Yes.
Sorry, so he's playing Skaven. He's playing the sort of the classic battle list effectively. So 2 bells, the furnace, Skabic, and then 2x10 sensor bearers, and then a hell pit, and Gravetide.
Nice.
Kind of things, and then obviously the usual stuff like the Seers, the clan rats, all that kind of stuff. But yeah, no. So So it's a solid list, and and if you don't know, if you've never played against Playtest bears, they kill anything they touch.
Yeah.
So so especially with death friends on them.
Mm-hmm.
So that was an interesting kind of game that we'd set up, and it was very conservative because there's no reason to go forward in limited resources.
Yeah.
Because I have teleport, so I can control the board without, and Marathi needs to stay alive for as long as possible, so I can't
Mm-hmm.
really just overcommit with it.
Yeah.
So yeah, I played wide. I got up ahead on points, and then Dara played hard for the double effectively. So
Mm-hmm.
one round, two gave it to me, which forced me to not play aggressively, but I had to sort of try and double layer screen, which is very hard to do when I only have 5 units, basically.
Yeah, I was about to say.
um, and then yeah, and then he's because the battle plan, so because he's so far away and because he does need to come forward, then my win condition is to, or usually speaking, I just shoot the sensor bearers as fast as I can, and
Mm-hmm.
then I kill and then obviously similar to what the experience you had in Brotherhood, I have to kill the
The
furnace,
furnace, and
to get
then
rid of battle shock, and then they
yeah,
start to run away, and then obviously I've got the crib disc to do the same kind of terror thing that
exactly.
most of the monsters do, and then they start to run away really really fast.
Mm-hmm.
So that's kind of what we played around. Daryl sort of knew this because we played the practice game before, so he
Yeah.
played them very, very conservatively at the back. Waited until I was forced to sort of leave one of the no holes open, and then just went in, played for the 9-inch charge, got it, played for the double, didn't get it.
Okay, yeah.
And then was yeah, and then suddenly there's 10 sensor bearers sat in front of 15 bow snakes. Which is not great.
Ooh.
So
Pain.
they died basically.
Yeah.
Obviously, and then we sort of pushed that game to a win from there on, effectively.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, but it was really interesting. Really well played from Daryl as well. Like just played for the win condition effectively. Didn't get it. Super unfortunate, but sometimes that's how it goes.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, lovely game. So then obviously, then I went. So obviously I'm 3-0, and obviously the mentality I should have now is to go to sleep.
Early.
Recover. This is absolutely not what we did. So I had a really really great time. Yeah, so we stayed up drinking till like sort of 4 5 a.m. in the lobby. It was fantastic. It's why I go to these events, especially in mainland Europe, because I get to see all of my favorite friends from Germany, Austria, France, Italy, obviously the Netherlands. Like
Yeah.
it's so good for that kind of stuff. So I love hanging out with those guys. So I'll never not do that. So yeah,
Yeah.
so fantastic. So we had a really really great time, and then up for day 2, and I played against the lovely Andrea from Team France, and he was running Corn. Now his list was a bit more. So me and Andrea had a really good talk about sort of the Corn meta and what we think we're going to see, and he's actually playing the Bloodlords, which is not something you see that often, sort of in the UK or America for that matter either. But yeah, so he was playing the Bloodlords, so he had 20, 10, 10 bloodletters instead of the usual stuff that you see sort of in the middle of the board. However, he did have the classic Scarbrand and the Unfettered Fury. So yeah, so it was a really really good, really really solid list. He also has 2 Ninja Furies, which if you don't have Furies in your list,
What are you
so good.
doing?
They're so good. They're so incredibly efficient for what they are. But yeah, but a really really good list. Andrea's also played it so many times. He's so good with that list. Lovely game. Yeah, I think yeah, just fantastic opponent, fantastic game. But yeah, no, we had a really really good game. We played it. We were playing on what's it called? What's the battle plan called? Is not that one. What's it called? Every Step is Forward. That's what it's called. That
Yes.
one. Every Step is Forward. Yeah, the one that like you're like the weird one. Yeah, that one. You're like okay, yeah, that one. Yeah. So we
The
played on
one
this
where it takes you half an hour to set up the board.
yeah, that one. So this one's really interesting for Khorne because so Khorne's biggest weakness is their turn 1 tactic, generally speaking. Well, tactics in general, but turn 1 especially. Now, on this battle plan, I have choice, and Andrea has to deploy. The only battle tactic he can do is board edges, basically.
Yeah.
But because of the way the territories work, he has to deploy one unit of Furies, like on the top end near my deployment, and then one down here. Now this means that if I give him first, he just does board edges, walks forward, scores 5. Now, I know that if I take first, I kill the Furies, I score 5 because I only need to take 2 to score 5.
Yes.
And then I can stop him. I can force him to only score a. If I had good primary presence, I could actually stop him from scoring more that turn, but I don't, so I can't.
Yes.
So I take first. I kill the Furies, and then I'm able to score 5 effectively, and it means that Andrea can only score 3 turn 1, which is what happens. Which is a nice thing to have going into that kind of matchup, especially when I know I've got free tactics later on. And then Andrea plays fantastically well. He gets into. I keep my bow stakes back, so I can't. Especially because of the double, I'm very scared of the sort of the clearing out and then the bloodbind into combat. So I'm a little bit scared of that. So I play a little bit deeper because I don't need to be aggressive. And then that allows me to play. I also don't put Marathi in at all, basically, because there's nothing that she can kill reliably. So I have to keep her a bit safe. And we have a really, really close game. Lots of very tight sort of measurements. Lots of tight measurements that matter. So lots of little plays that kind of like we're both being very on it. It was a really, really, really good game. And then Andrea got a big double effectively and got into. He played really, really well. He played around the 3-6 charge on both units really well. So basically, Scarbrand got into the bow snakes, which is fine. We lost the bow snakes. So that was turn 3. We lost the bow snakes. So then in my turn 3, I had a Charybdis and Marathi left. But Marathi had only taken 3 wounds. Marathi had only taken 3 wounds. So we were kind of vibing at that point. So I was up kind of just on points because of turn 1 effectively. And turn 2 you hadn't scored more, so I was up 3 points overall. Going into this point, but now I kind of lose out on the primary a little bit. But then I was able to score 3 in that turn with my models because I can do 2 because basically as soon as I get to turn 3, I know I have 2 in your territory. So I did board edges turn 3. Then I did 2 in your territory because both Marathis have to be alive because they've only taken 3 wins and I didn't fight with them. And then I know I've got intimidate last turn. And there's nothing he can do about that because I have 2 Marathis and I have my general alive, and my general is teleporting across the board. Basically, so that's kind of why it's like, okay, I lost the bow snakes. It sucks, but it's kind of fine. I haven't really killed much at this point, to be honest. And then there was loads of little swing points, effectively. Andrea did a comet onto my general because my Grand Strike keep my general alive. His a slaughter of sorcery, so he has to do both things. And he did 3 wounds to her, which if it had spiked and done 5, and I hadn't rolled a thing, then it would have been a problem. And then he played it really, really well, and I was mentally being very comfortable because I thought he was going to play for that again in the last turn when he had enough blood type to do it again. And what he did was he put it onto Marathi in my turn so that she took 3 wounds and then was able to die in the last turn.
Okay,
And then he had to make so he played. It was all playing for like this to try and win other things because this kind of matchup is always going to be an 11-9, 12-8. Kind of just because that's how it kind of works. However, if like we're both just trying to get all the swing points to make it our way because it's singles. So he had to make a 9-inch charge in the last turn with a slaughter priest to get into the Meliusai to try and kill her. That was literally that out effectively, and he failed that charge. So I ended up winning by a point, basically. So it was a very, very close game, a very, very fast game, but really, really great nonetheless. So me and Andrea had a fantastic game.
That really grand strategy is great. That dynamic between Spellcasting Savant and Slaughter of Sorcery is just a 6-point swing in either direction.
exactly. That's the thing, is it matters. It totally shifts the game basically because that is the deciding factor effectively. And the ability that I stopped the tactic turn one means that it's exactly the same. Basically, it just swings that game. Like me and Andrea could play that game like 50 times, and like we'd probably both win 25 times, 12-8.
Yeah.
Like, I was in by 1 point. Like, that's just how that kind of works, because there's worlds where he just kills my general, and there's worlds where he does no wounds to my general, there's worlds he makes a charge, fails the charge, this kind of stuff, right?
Yeah.
Like, it's so dependent on those little rolls, which is what you often find in sort of the top matches, I find. But yeah, no, so we had a fantastic game. And yeah, so I ended up winning by 1 point, so I got 12-8 win into that game. So,
Juicy.
yeah, so really, really good game. And then we played into, so then round 5. So at this point we're playing to sort of podium. I think in theory, I think at this point we can still win the event, but I think it's unlikely because we've won 2 12-8s at this point, or maybe like a 12-8 and 13-7.
Yep.
So it's not so likely that we'll if we win this game even 20-0, we'll probably not get it, but I think it could happen. So I play Yorin, also from Team France.
Woo! Yorin!
So we love Yorin. Yorin's fantastic. I played against Yorin a couple times. I've had the pleasure. Yeah, I really enjoyed talking to Yorin. Always really fantastic guy. Yeah, so we played our game. He was playing Gits. He's playing a little bit. He's playing sort of an adapted version of Gits, we'll call it, because obviously Gits got hit a little bit in the battle scroll. It didn't hit Gits that hard, but it hit the lists that, ironically, me and Yorin both. Well, we played slightly different lists, but we both played Gits at Atlanta last year, the Warhammer World Championship, and both of our lists got hit pretty hard, relatively. So we both lost units. So he's trying to adapt to it, whereas I kind of not gave up, but I kind of moved on a little bit.
Jump the boat.
Yeah, exactly. I was like, oh, okay, off we jump. So Yoris is really cool, and it's a little bit more of I don't want to say defensive style, but it's a little bit more. It very reliably does battle tactics and has a lot more board presence than Gits normally does. So he has lots of he still has 1 unit of 36 Squidcard, and he still has 10 point guard bounders, and he's got 20 stabbers, and he's got 1 unit of 10 loon smashers, and then the 2 units of spore splatter fanatics. But he also he's got Dagot stab lads, who are just very efficient points coming in from Cool Boys, and then he's got Gringrak for fight on death, and then he's got a single Squig boss, of course, for the hero first move, and then he's got 2 madcaps, and he's playing Jaws to make the because he kind of needs it in this point.
Yeah.
But his kind of strategy is also overshadow.
Oh yeah.
Because Gits are in a weird place with their grand strat at the moment, because a lot of the meta stuff have monsters now, and because Khorne's so present everywhere, Protect the Shrine is probably not the best. Into Khorne, especially for singles anyway. For teams it may be different, but for singles, Protect the Shrine is like, I mean, Khorne was everywhere at this event as well.
Yeah.
So there was a lot of Khorne. So having Protect the Shrine is probably not the best for that, because Khorne can so easily go and get it. And then having Protect Your General is probably not the best, because that's the other option they have. But then when your general has 4 wounds and no ward, it's not ideal sometimes. So a nice pick from Yorin, especially because they have to kill all of his battle lines. He does have a lot of battle lines, so I respect it a lot. But yeah, so that was really cool. And then into me, it's an interesting one. So we played on Fountains of Frost. Fountains of Frost is fine because obviously I can stay away. However, you can't really stay away from Squidcard.
No.
You can try, but especially on that battle plan, you can't. And the problem is that normally my attitude to Squidcard is I screen with units that I accept I'm going to lose. Then if the player alphas me, then fine. That's kind of how I play against Squigs, generally speaking. You screen, you accept you're going to lose the screens, but then they don't do anything else. Fine. You screen 9 inches away. If they run away, it doesn't matter because they can't hit anything. That's kind of how I play it. The problem on this battle plan is this battle plan has the short deployment.
Yeah.
So I can't actually screen 9 away at all. And I don't really want to trade that much stuff anyway. So I can't afford to take 3 wounds on Rathian here, for example. So so what I do is I screen in a way where I have the 2 units of Shadow Stalkers.
Yes.
And then I have Marathi in the middle. and
Oh no. Oh no. Matt. No. All right. Technical issue resolved. We're back. Wait.
yeah, sorry. So so I deployed in a way that allowed me to sort of, I had Big Marathi and then the two little screens. And basically I was trying to make him worried about how much damage they could take without having to use the Triumph Tome one, and
Yes.
also how much, because Marathi does slap. So yeah, so that was the kind of thing. So the way Yorin played it was, what he did was he tried to kill off so he charged in a very beautiful little shape, where he got the Squig Herd to be able to fight into both units of into the Shadowstalkers, and then string them all the way back so that they would also get fight on death from Gringray.
Yummy.
Beautiful little shape. Yeah, so really, really nice shape. You can tell Yoren's played Gits for 1,000 years. Perfect shape, perfect form. Got 10 squigs into each unit of Shadowstalkers. Kind of thinking that was going to be enough. I kind of mentally assumed that one unit would die, but with an all-out defense, I might be able to save another one. Because he doesn't have a Gobblepalooza in this list, so they're not actually running two. And he wasn't able to put 6/2 mortals on them because he needed the extra move, because I deployed so far back. Those are like the sort of the core scenario. So then he rolled a little bit badly on the unit that wasn't all out defense, and then he ended up not killing them. And then he also didn't kill the unit that had all out defense. So he ended up not. So he didn't tag Marathi either, was his decision, which makes sense. So he ended up having the Squig Herd sort of stuck in combat with me. Obviously, they still have fight on death, which is still a massive problem. But I was able to kind of. It was I didn't lose any units, which is the big deal, basically.
Yeah.
So then my turn one, I managed to get the Withering off onto the Squig Herd, which gives me which gives me +1 to wound against them in shooting as well. And then I was also able to get Mind Razor off on Marathi. So I killed all 36 Squig Herd turn one. Which is a good start. However, the trade-off, which is actually fine, weirdly for Yorin, was that the way I charged Marathi was I moved her to the back of the unit and charged into the Squig Handlers. Because he still has fight on death, I still have to respect fight on death, because I don't want to take 3 wounds of Marathi if I can avoid it.
Yes.
So 6 Squig Handlers. I put Mystic Shield and Finest Hour on Marathi, because I wanted to make sure that I was able to kill those Squig Herds and minimize the damage back. Obviously, they did 3 wounds to Marathi, so that was an unfortunate sort of swing back. But I'd killed 36 Squig Herds, so it was kind of fine.
Yeah. Good trade.
So I had, in the scheme of things, fine. So I set Marathi up in front of Marathi's now in the face of of everything he has left, basically. So I've got the bows in range of shooting the Boingrots and all this kind of stuff. So a double here would have been pretty nasty, but but it's also not that bad. So I didn't get the double, basically. So which is fine. Yorin took the turn. And then he sacrificed some Spore Splatters to do 3 wounds to Marathi, so she's taking 6 at this point.
Yes.
He just covers his flanks a little bit, and then which was really good. So I was kind of in an okay position here. And then in my turn 2, I basically killed everything I could. So I shot off some Fell Wars. I shot off, I did some with the Gringrak. I couldn't quite shoot him off with Marathi shooting. Gringrak is a nightmare for Marathi. Anything fighting on death is a pain for her. And Yorin had set up this little mini castle where it was Gringrak and then every unit within 3. So whatever I fought with Marathi was fighting on death, which was really, really well played from him. So it was very hard for me to do anything. So I was playing around trying to get as many points with Marathi because we're playing Fountains of Frost, and he's now lost sort of the alpha piece. I'm like, okay, I'm trying to play around playing. I keep mine, and then I push on to one of his, basically. So I did that, So I had to fight Gringars Looncourt, and I was like, it's okay, they're not that great. Gringars Looncourt, fight on death, 3 wounds to Marathi, of course. But it is what it is. But at this point, I've killed all the screens, and now we're into Prior 3. And this is kind of where Doc not fall apart, but this is where they struggle. Is that if they don't win any priors at all, it can be a little bit problematic because, well, I'll explain a little bit more in a second. But basically, we're priority into 3, and Yorin won the priority roll and took it.
Yeah.
And what they spent is Matthew's taken 3 wounds, so now she dies, basically.
Yeah.
And then I still had my bow snakes and stuff. So I was like, it's okay, I lose Matthew, it's okay, I can still play the game. And then the mad lad that Yorin is rolled a double 6 on the Squid Hood charge, which is what he needed. Which is totally fine, and got into the point to the
bow snakes, yeah.
The bow snakes. So obviously this was the returned unit, and then we were like, okay, and because he's playing Gits, he was able to, at this point, he's sort of spread out a bit, and then I can't, even though I have units left, I can't really go anywhere. I'm kind of boxed in, and eventually he'll sort of run me down. So that's kind of where we kind of sort of assessed effectively. But the key thing is that like the matchup kind of came down to like core priority roll. So I ended up losing, obviously. But the matchup came down to the priority rolls effectively, because so you're in 1 prior to 2, 3, and 4, which are all like big deals. Because I'm unable to push my advantage, and like it helps a lot because Joran's also a very good player, so he knows how Doc works very well. So he was able to. So for example, one of the damage outputs that you have from Doc is you have your hero fish shooting, or combat. Right. But the problem is if you never get a double, then Yorin can just walk outside of 24. So all I did was I'd move up because I can't be in threat range because they're terrifying. Because 10 Boingrots with the Spore Splatters will lift 15 bow snakes. So I move my 24 just in range to shoot the 10, and then he moves backwards in his turn. Right? And then because we're playing just turn, there's no pressure on him to. He doesn't need to play exactly right. And then he can play for 1 big charge later, but it doesn't need to. So that's kind of how it ended up working out. So so a couple of swing priorities basically kind of decided that game. But we had a really, really good chat, and it was really, really fun. It was really good. Really enjoyed that game. So yeah. So I ended up 4-1 basically.
Very nice.
Yeah.
Little golf clap. Woo.
Yeah.
But yeah.
But the list performed really, really well, actually. The list performed kind of exactly how I thought it would. But as always, the problem with Doc is that if you're on a timer constantly, which is that once Marathi's gone, you have no pressure on the midboard. So there has to be enough. You have to have done enough damage to the midboard by the time that Marathi dies, so that you can do that. And you shouldn't really be losing Marathi sort of before into most matchups anyway, before sort of turn 4 really. The only time is like when you get like when you're playing against things with fight on death, it gets a little bit more difficult, because the problem is like in this matchup I don't have a choice. I can't just leave 36 quicker because they'll table me, right? So I have to kill them, and then I minimize the chances that they do damage back to me, and then they get it. Fine, okay, sure. I can't do anything about that, and then you have to like play those odds a couple of times, and you don't get it, and that's okay. But yeah, no. So was pretty impressed with the army.
Very good. So overall result for the event?
So 4-1, and I came like 16th or something.
Woo! At an event with 100 people? 96, I think?
No, it's a little bit more than 100, I think, on Pompon. I believe it's 111 players.
Damn! Good stuff.
So super happy. It's always a little bit thing at the end, because it's you're playing to potentially win the event, and then you lose. But then you're playing the thing, and then you always drop down. It's kind of always how it works at events, especially the bigger ones, which is totally fine. Like, so it's okay. So we ended up 16th, I believe. Sorry, 16th. Yeah, I came joined 16th.
Nice.
Really happy. So yeah.
Hey, that's a great result.
Got my best in faction for Doc, which I was not in contention for, I believe. But that's fine. I think maybe there was one other player. I think actually, I found out at the end of the day. I think there may have been one other player. But
yeah. Okay.
Yeah.
Well.
Yeah. So really good event, though, I have to say.
Hmm.
Yeah, so it was really well run event. One of the best events in Europe, I think, or maybe even in the world, to be honest, in terms of organization and the guys who run it, like Tom and Jeffrey run a really tight ship, and it's
Hmm.
really well done. It's
Yeah.
definitely world's level as well, which is really nice.
Hmm.
So yeah, no, I have to say, really love it. And the people there are always the best. So yeah, no, and a big shout out to the French guys because they ended up with
Hmm.
so ironically, so Gargants ended up winning the event, which
Ooh.
wasn't really that expected.
Mm.
Some of the French guys were like, yeah, we did kind of expect it, which I was impressed with. But yeah, so Hadrian ended up winning it with Hadrian ended up winning it with the Gargants, and
Hmm.
then Yorin ended up second with his Gits, and then Leo ended up third with what was he playing? Was it his Corn? I'll load it up.
Mm.
Perfect. But yeah, Leo ended up third.
Very nice.
So yeah, it was with a Skaven. Sorry, it was a Skaven.
Ah, okay, yeah.
Sorry, yeah. But big shout out to those guys for getting
Hmm.
a France top three. They were very proud.
Woo.
So good job to those guys. Yeah.
Well, in that case, kudos to the French, and a big shout out to, again, the organizers, Tom from Tabletop Alliance, and Jeffrey as well. Their Twitter handles will probably be linked down below. Make sure to check out their events. They are also hosting the Age of Sigmar Worlds singles and teams event at the same venue.
Yeah, same venue.
Same venue at the end of June. So if you want to go there, meet Matt, myself, Phil, whomever, really, attend, go there, visit, just watch.
Yeah.
It's expertly run. They are super they're very professional, they're very eloquent, and they're overall just great people. I always love going there. I went there for a team event last September, and I am keen to go there again. So, yeah.
Yeah, absolutely check them out. Really good. And as always, if you see any of us at events, please feel free to come talk to us. I met
Yes.
loads of new people at the open. Some familiar faces, some non-familiar faces. It's always fantastic to talk to you guys. It's really nice to sort of to meet as many people in the community as I physically possibly can. So please always come up and say hello.
Yes. And on that note, we've got a little bit of a content update for you guys, since we're closing out the episode now. Just for your general information, there is a video planned on Sheffield Slaughter, which will be coming out at some point soon. I still have to chat with Phil about that. But other than that, in 2 weeks' time, it's already Brothers War weekend! Huzzah!
It's so soon.
It's right around the corner. And yeah, it's gonna be big. It's gonna be huge. We're gonna have a chat with Phil about the event as a precursor, like what he thought about it, about organizing an event, what it was like interacting with the people, since it's a teams event as well, negotiating with captains and such. And then we'll have a little bit of a team lit preview to the event and a review as well, if we're sober enough to do it.
Yeah, very much.
But then also next couple while you can have a look out on our Twitter channels and on YouTube as well. We will be releasing a battlescroll review thingy at some point. We're not quite sure how that's gonna look, but we're pretty confident that it's gonna happen.
Yeah, we're kind of to be sort of more open. We're kind of being a little bit. We were gonna do one where we talked about our initial thoughts, but we think it might be better to wait until after Brothers War.
Yes.
So we have a bit more of a viewpoint on where the kind of world is at and where we're at, so that we can get a bit more of a thing that doesn't just get outdated immediately once we see. Some
Exactly.
more
But yeah, that's pretty much gonna be it. As always, I have to say thank you everyone so much for watching. Thank you for Matt for coming on.
Thank you for
And
hosting.
hey, and we're gonna have a lovely time at Brothers War and all the other tournaments, and I can't wait to get into editing again. Oh, quick note on the side. Our Spotify is currently broken. We're trying to fix it. We don't know what happened. We're trying to get it back up. But until then, maybe the Spotify episode for this will be up, and the rest of the episodes as well. But until then, just keep an eye out on our socials. We're going to keep you posted. Okay? All right. In that case, Matt, ring us out.
All right. Thanks for listening. Really hope you're having a fantastic day. And we'll see you guys next time.
Don't get any extra points
For being